You get the gist of it, I guess. I don't have the official dinger, but good morning. Please find yourself in the right mood for service. Find your seats, and we're going to get started. We're going to start with the announcements. Just some reminders and some housekeeping issues to make sure everybody is aware. We like to remind you that the service is streamed on YouTube. So if you're watching us from YouTube, hola, hello. And we're glad you're watching us from home. And we'd rather have you here, but we understand that sometimes there's some limitations of coming to service. So let me remind you to read the announcements in your printed order of service. Also, and especially, be sure to read the weekly events that are emailed to you each Thursday, as well as the Unigram and the website where you'll find helpful information. I urge you to keep your website open as a tab on your internet browser so you can keep up with what's happening. So you can just leave that tab open there, and that's what I do for some of the important websites that I don't want to have to go searching for. Remember that although we are not in official quarantine, we need to practice social distancing. We ask everybody to wear their mask. Everybody's doing it, so you get a thumbs up from the infection control doctor. And be careful out there. The pandemic obviously is still with us, is still causing a lot of sorrow and harm and killing people. I can tell you firsthand, our hospital is really being hit hard with the latest wave. So please be safe out there. Let us center ourselves for today's service and remember to silence all electronic devices as Anna plays the prelude.
This morning's prelude is entitled Prelude in Memoriam, Opus 116, by Armenian-American composer Diane Gulkasian-Rabi. She dedicates this to Edward Ted Hennessy, who lived from 1966 to 2001. He was one of her students, and he was also on the first plane that hit the World Trade Center towers on 9/11.
Thank you, Anna. Please now stand, if you can, and join us for the Congregational Covenant as found in your order of service. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve others in community, thus do we covenant with one another. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Colombia. My name is Emilio Perez, and I'm your service leader for the day. Our minister is Reverend Stephen John Robinson, and on those Sundays when Stephen is not in the pulpit, we present a variety of qualified and interesting speakers from this congregation or from recognized guests from the wider community. So you have to keep returning to see what's coming next service. The Unitarian Universalism is a diverse and non-creedal religion. We are a covenantal religion, which means that we don't have to believe the same in order to treat each other the same, with respect, equity, compassion, and dignity. Our community is based on deeds, not creeds. As Unitarian Universalists, we side with love, embracing all people regardless of age, color, race, socioeconomic status, physical ability, or religious background. We are a welcoming congregation, which means we also embrace LGBTQ individuals. We encourage everyone to wear name tags so that we may know each other better. Board members wear green name tags, and they are always welcome your comments, questions, and suggestions. Would the members of the Board of Trustees please stand now so you can be recognized? Thank you. At this time, we would like to recognize any guests or visitors who are with us today. If you're willing and able, please rise and share with us your name and where you're from. Or if you have guests with you, please feel free to introduce them. And Stephen will go with the microphone to you.
Hello, my name is Kate Heald. I was actually married in this building by Neil Jones, and I try and come at least every 3 years, I think I told someone earlier today. I'm very happy to be here, and I wanted to introduce myself because along with Ann Cargill, I'm the artist of the current exhibition, and today we'll start taking things down. That exhibition is set to change out soon, so if you see me grabbing things from the walls, I am not stealing. Thank you.
Welcome, Kate. Anybody else?
We have a new staff member. That's our new bookkeeper, and this is their first Sunday here, so I'm gonna let them introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Michelle Curry, and this is my husband, Don. And we originally come from Maine via Connecticut. And it's an honor to be here today, and I'm going to try hard to fill Ginny's shoes.
And I'm her silent partner.
Welcome both. All right. Ethan.
Hey, my name is Ethan. I grew up in the Unitarian Universalist congregation in Greenville, but this is my first time here, checking y'all out, and yeah, I've worked with the mutual aid group that y'all do, the Food Not Bombs, and I really appreciate the work that they do. So I wanted to check out the fellowship.
Welcome. All right. Just to remind you that after service you can continue your conversations, but because of the pandemic, we prefer you to do it outside, so don't linger. Otherwise, I'll go around with my finger like this telling you to get up. All right. And the challenge lining today is surprise, me and Nancy. What to say afterwards. So most of you know us. My name is Emilio. This is Nancy. She wanted me to do most of the talking, I guess, so I'll be doing it. We joined here in 2012, about nine years ago. We all come from different backgrounds. I was raised non-practicing Catholic, which is the average Catholic type of practice you do in Spain, which is you go to church and weddings and funerals, but that's pretty much it. And Nancy was raised Presbyterian. When we came here, we kind of were looking for a place where we can feel welcome, where everybody can feel they can have their own view of what a religious or a spiritual experience is. And we really found it here. We had some experiences with other churches that were not really very inclusive and kind of a little bit hypocritical into their approach of, what religion is. We do believe that God or Allah or Buddha or the Great Spirit or whatever you believe in is a good person, is not here to judge you. As Unitarians, we don't really believe in hell and heaven and all that kind of stuff. And here we feel that we're free to believe what we think is right for us and that people don't judge us for what we believe or what we don't believe. This community has always been very welcoming to us, and we're just so very happy and thankful for all of you. So, we like this chalice. Let me check the rest. We like this chalice. I guess, I don't know if I have it, but we light this chalice because we love being here. And a spirit of light and life come unto us. That's the new script. All right, I think that's...
This morning's service will feature a couple of compositions by a special composer. In recent weeks, the people of Afghanistan, the women, the musicians, and the artists of Afghanistan have especially been in my thoughts and in my heart. And I've been in contact with a young composer from Afghanistan named Malad Yusufi. He's a pianist, composer, conductor, poet, singer, painter, and calligrapher. And he was born in 1995 during the Civil War in Afghanistan. At the time, the Taliban were ruling Afghanistan, and music was completely banned. At the age of 2, he started drawing, and he drew the piano keys on paper and pretended to play. When the Taliban rule was lifted after a period of 5 years, the arts flourished in Afghanistan. And Yusufi took advantage of every opportunity to learn and study music and art. By the age of 12, he was teaching painting and was able to attend the one and only music school in Kabul. After only 3 years of training, he was one of 4 students accepted into a music program in Denmark. And his musical journey since has brought him to America, where he studied on scholarship at Mannes College with Simona Dinnerstein, and where he is now studying for his master's in composition at Brooklyn College. He said of recent weeks, "It's a very difficult time for Afghanistan. It looks exactly like the time that I grew up in, and it triggered a lot of memories for me. It feels like I have nothing to say except being quiet and feeling the sense of grief and sorrow." This first composition by Yusufi is called Farewell Kabul, and it's from his piano suite called My Journey. He says it's inspired by the sorrow of separation he went through when he left Afghanistan, when he realized he would become a refugee and would not be able to go to his country anytime soon. He had the theme and wrote Farewell Kabul.
Thank you, Anna, for doing all the work to have a conversation with the composer, to be able to get permission for us to use it in our service, and then for performing it so beautifully and effectively. Thank you so much. This time we move to a moment for all ages with our children. I'm going to walk to the back so that they don't have to walk to the front. I believe we have one back there, so I'm just going to hold up a picture and introduce you to 4 people. And they are Jennifer Harold, Andrew Erker, Lauren Erker, and Jackie Hobbs. Can you see those folks? I am sharing their picture because this is their picture about 20 years ago, 19 years ago actually. It was a year after an event called 9/11, which I know you've heard about in school and learned about if you're watching TV, especially this weekend. It's the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 event in our history. And these are 4 kids. They're pictured there. They're 20 years older now, and their lives had a huge impact by 9/11. They were all there around the different events, and their parents were involved in those as well. And I read a beautiful story about them, and 2 things that they shared in their interview and talking about looking back on that event 20 years later. When it happened, they were kids just about your age. So kind of looking back 20 years later, 2 things that they said. One is they know, definitely don't have to wonder, they know for sure what a hero is. And I think that's really important to know, and especially in our modern time where we have a lot of superheroes and the Marvel movies are out, we can often identify what superheroes are and superhero powers. But they said that they absolutely know what a hero looks like, and they have many of those in their mind. So that's something to think about. Who are the heroes in your life? Usually it's some people very close to you, parents, friends, teachers, siblings. Those are some of the heroes in our lives these days, and hopefully those faces grow over time. The other thing they said is one of the things that has helped them continue to do well is they are surrounded by love all the time. And they believe that love was the single most important thing that has helped them move on and help them grow up over the 20 years. And that is the one thing they take away from their experience, is being surrounded by so many people who love them. Here in the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Columbia, love is the most important thing that we talk about. And if nothing else, as you grow, as you learn, as you work through our RE program, I hope that you know without a doubt that you're surrounded by people that love you. This time we will dismiss out. Scott can lead you out. Thank you for being here. For those who are craning your necks back there trying to see, I'll just hold up a picture so you can see. And then as a group of kids 20 years prior. For our opening words today, as we are in our culture, absolutely focusing a lot of our energy this weekend on the 20th anniversary of September 11th. It would be important for us as a congregation gathering today to think about how that has impacted us and how it continues to impact us as we move forward. So thankfully we've had opportunities, and we'll have more opportunities with music to reflect on this experience. And I want to share a poem that was written by Kevin Powell, who is a poet and an activist, a civil rights activist and a journalist that lives in Brooklyn. He had been at an event on September 11th in Syracuse where he had been speaking, and was making a plan to fly back home to Brooklyn until he received a call with all of the events that were happening as September 11th unfolded. A few months later, he wrote this poem. It's simply entitled September 11th. Might it be, as my mother said to me on this ugly, sinful day, that the world is on its last go-round? Hijacked wild birds strip the sky of its innocent morning breath. Still towers crumple like playing cards on an uneven metal table. Unrehearsed screams we dare not hear leap from windows into the open, bottomless palms of God. I cannot stand to watch life reduce itself to powdery dust and soot lathering the evil's inflamed mouth, but I'm fixated on the television anyhow. Is this what slavery was like? Is this what the Holocaust was like? Is this what famine is like? Is this what war is like? Is this how you felt, dear mother, when King and the 2 Kennedys were killed? I want to stitch up the sky and deny humans the right to fly, cry until my tears have washed hatred from the mildewed underarms of history. And I want to say to the firefighters, ah yes, husbands, fathers, brothers, uncles, your friends, thanks for speeding to the end of your time, and thank you for showing us that courage is a soul so unselfish it would scale a collapsing building to liberate a stranger. Even as your blood relatives wonder if you yourself are alive. From the remains of this madness, I detect a heartbeat called life. From the remains of this madness, I smell an aroma called love. From the remains of this madness, I embrace a body called humanity. From the remains of this madness, I construct a dream called hope. From the remains of this madness, I will ride the wings of the deceased into the clouds and scribble their names on the sun, erect a memorial to the moon, chant the blues for New York City, and then resurrect a world where a newborn rose will jut through the broken concrete. At this time, we move to a time in our service where we light candles of community, opportunities for this group to share joys and concerns, and light a candle and briefly share what the candle is for. And we invite you, if you are willing, there are always candles in our foyer, to grab one and to be willing to come down and share briefly what you are lighting a candle for this morning. Before we move to our candles, I would just like to simply take a moment. I don't know if they're going to light a candle or not, but I will take a moment and just simply say that these beautiful flowers today are donated by Lee and Julian Mingy, celebrating their 61st wedding anniversary. Their lives began together on September 7th, 1960 in Washington, D.C., taking them from Seattle, Storrs, Connecticut, Vancouver, and finally Columbia for the last 48 years, allowing them to be able to grow old and beautiful together. I add the beautiful part. They have launched their new life at Still Hopes and downsized considerably, to say the least, and are very fortunate to be sharing this adventure. Thank you for sharing this special day with us and adding these beautiful flowers to our worship experience. I invite you now, if there are any others that want to come and light a candle.
Well, good morning. Hello again. Bruce. Well, everyone should know me by now. This candle is for Nick. Some don't know. This is his 5th round of chemo at home. It's an ongoing thing. It's for the rest of his life. It's not going to stop. But we do appreciate the cards, the calls, the messages from everyone. This is for him and for myself. And on a different note, if anyone is trying to get that 3rd booster, I've done it. It's difficult. They'll make it hard for you to do. But if you want it, fight for it.
Thank you, Stephen, for sharing. It's hard to believe that 61 years have passed since September 7th, 1960. We don't feel that old, do we? Anyway, it is what it is. And it's just, we feel so blessed that we are together at this point, and to be able to celebrate in a way with you.
I'd like to light a candle because today is, I believe, National Grandparents' Day as well. So this is for all the grandparents here and the elders. And also just on a personal note for my own grandma, and I've been really glad for her to be in an assisted living place nearby this past year. And she's been doing really well and walking around her, the block around her door. And she taught me how to make fig preserves recently, so I learned her special recipe.
Good morning. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Warren Gooch. I was ordained a little over 40 years ago, but I had stopped attending church as well. It took my daughter Janice several attempts to get me to come here to join this community to see what I thought of it. I'd gotten to the point that I was disgusted with the churches that I was finding because I wasn't finding love, I wasn't finding the spirit and the joy. When I came here, I was in very poor health, but with a combination of Anne's beautiful and powerful music, the overseeing of the Spirit by your pastor, and by the love and harmony I found within the people here, there is a spiritual power within this community. It can be felt, that can be used, that can be worked with. I thought about joining the church, but I didn't think I'd be alive this year. So I hesitated. My health was quite bad. I ended up having a couple of heart procedures and having a vast change in my medications. Now my heart problems are under control. My pain is being managed to the point that I can function again. So I lit the candle this morning in thanksgiving and a renewal spirit, because I found within this community that which I had lost and which I needed to refine. The power of the Spirit is gathered within a group of people with like mind, open minds, and working from within their heart. So I have lit this for thanksgiving for that which I received and for the renewal of my life. Thank you.
Thank you, Warren. First time I met Warren, he came up to me and said, "There is a spirit in this place." I don't know if he meant good or bad. But after conversation, realized that he did experience exactly what he just described. And during our worship experience, I have to tell you, during times of music, I definitely feel that sense of connection in the music that we provide in these services, and especially during this time of lighting candles, I feel the connection of this community. And in that spirit, I light one final candle as a representative of those concerns and joys that we hold to ourselves, don't share out loud, but are just as important to be held in this community. I invite you to a time of silence to remember all that you felt and heard over this time of sharing. Thank you. This time we prepare for our morning offering, and I can't tell you how many people last week came up to me and said when I saw that the topic for the day was renewal, it's time for renewal, how many people thought it was pledge time renewal and almost avoided coming that day. So I'm glad that you risked it and came anyway, but it is a good reminder for us that as we receive our offering, we continue to do the work of the UUCC and definitely need the support of everyone involved. And our Share the Plate this month is the Harriet Hancock LGBTC Services Center, which is the hub of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender activity in the Midlands of South Carolina. And we have a long-standing relationship with the Hancock Center and friendship and mutual work that we do together in this community. And it is a pleasure to be able to do Share the Plate in the month of September for the Hancock Center. This time, I invite the ushers to come and receive the morning offering.
Our offertory music is Can I See Another's Woe? Music is from a melody based on Veni Redemptor Gentium with words by William Blake. Can I see another's woe and not be in sorrow too? Can I see another's grief and not seek for kind relief?
We receive this offering today. This is a symbol of our generosity and our commitment of the UUCC to our good work. This has been a weekend of anniversary of an event that has really shaped us over the last 20 years. And it's hard to believe when I first read the article of what I shared with the kids and the picture of the kids that were all grown up into their 20s, even though my daughter was born, my oldest daughter was born about 5 days on the 6th before the events of 9/11. I can't wrap my mind around the fact that she's 20 years old, as much as it's hard to wrap my mind around the fact that those kids are grown into adults as well. And I shared with the children as we were looking at this that these are folks whose parents were involved in 9/11, and that's the way I wanted to word it for our kids, but I think you obviously know these are kids whose parents died in the events at various locations of what happened on September 11th. One of the folks in here said every year they prepare for the month of September that actually begins sometime at the end of July and early August. That September begins for them. Think about that. As they prepare for anniversaries, as they prepare for events, as they prepare for people to shift their memories to the events of September 11th, even over these 20 years. And these folks have gotten together for every anniversary and did so on the 20th anniversary as well. You and I have in our minds these images and experiences. We all could take a moment and share, this is what I was doing during the event of 9/11. It is the nature of the events. Prior to that, it was, where were you when Kennedy was assassinated? We have events like this that mark us. Where were you when the Space Shuttle Challenger exploded? These events, that especially that we watch on television, have become a part of our human experience. So we could take time this morning and everyone could share, this is what I was doing during the time of that morning on September 11th, as planes flew into the North Tower, the South Tower, the Pentagon, and then crashed into a field in Pennsylvania. Today, in cities, and this weekend in cities all around our country and really around the world, people are commemorating the 20th anniversary and various rituals that you could have watched yesterday. Maybe possibly you woke up yesterday morning to the sound of fighter jets flying overhead over the city of Columbia. I know I certainly heard that as we were taking our morning walk, and it's those jets that you actually don't hear them until they're past kind of experience. In Manhattan, in what's pictured kind of on our program, and this is a picture that is actually at the 9/11 Memorial for public use, but there's two 88 7,000 watt Xenon light bulbs that shoot light up and a mile into the air to remember this event. It's been 20 years now after the attackers have brought down these buildings, damaged other buildings, destroyed 4 airplanes, killed about 3,000 people in what has become a defining event for our generation. For us, we could talk about all these memories that we felt and that we experienced and we watched as it unfolded in front of us on the news. And often what we do with these memories is we tuck them away in a closet in our minds, because you can't live with these events just constantly in front of you. Even the victims that were very close to this event and lost loved ones in the very moments of these events will say, you can't live with this 24/7 right in front of you all of the time. You have to tuck these away in a closet in your mind. And the rituals that we've experienced like this weekend are the events of opening up the closet and bringing them out to the surface and experiencing them again and remembering them again. And so we take time this weekend to mourn losses, lives that were lost on that day, but also lives lost in the days and years after as we began to wage war on the people that we blamed for the attacks. We mourn so many innocents who have died during this experience, lives that were shattered, families finding themselves being relocated, seeking refuge away from violence, everyone who has been distorted or broken from events of terror and oppression. Perhaps as much as we mourn the lives that are lost or broken, we also mourn the loss of our civility, our loss of our community, our sense of innocence that maybe we thought we had as a nation. It's interesting, we just seem to replace one with the other. When I was growing up in high school, I was invited with 4 of my other colleagues in high school to take Russian as the foreign language. At that time, Spanish was the typical language that was taught, but we were invited to take Russian through a satellite. And I remember they brought a huge satellite, and it just felt so monumental to talk to a teacher that was miles away. Now it seems so commonplace these days. But I also remember in taking Russian and beginning to share Russian phrases, hearing feedback that my parents received of, why would you allow your son to do that? For at that time, we were in the midst of the Cold War, and the enemy that we had put a face on were Russian people. And only the events of 9/11 changed that to shift it to a new face of a new enemy. But we have to rise above these emotions, and we have to deal spiritually, emotionally, rationally with what is in front of us. We can look at our sense of America and think about that we are exceptional above everyone else, but we have our own limits as well. And we have been humbled by our own limitations. It's interesting to listen to others, children who are at the Emma Booker Elementary School in Sarasota, Florida, where President Bush was reading and listening to books being read. One of them, reflecting on that event, said that all of a sudden the world seemed bigger to them. That they were that impacted by something that was happening miles away. And at the same time, I've heard others say that all of a sudden the world seemed smaller to them, that the violence was not just something of a large scale that we were watching on the news halfway around the world in a country that we had never visited, but it was right here. A Unitarian Universalist minister who is recently retired named Tom Shade wrote this a few years ago in reflection on 9/11. I'd like to share it. I think it's still relevant today. He says, the dominant narrative about 9/11 is that the event proved the existence of evil in the world, that there is an escalating conflict between the West and some undetermined portion of Islam, and that we are moving toward an apocalyptic catastrophe. Fear and anger are appropriate responses, or at least they're supposed to be. And there's a whole historical analysis that undergirds that this emotional response that proves that fear and anger are indeed rational responses. But there's also a whole segment of this culture that accepts that narrative as true and doesn't question it. And not much will sway them. But is it spiritually correct? We as UU see the future not as a clash of civilizations, not as an Armageddon, not as a final battle for God. We see a future of peace, cooperation, and diversity. We see that future coming into being right now, and one way is that across the country, interfaith coalitions, including Muslim, Christians, and Jews, are stronger now than ever. The dominant narrative of 9/11 makes it a holiday of anti-universalism. But we, whose whole theology of history points toward universalism, must speak on that day to testify to our faith in a different and a better future. It's really easy for us to harbor bitterness and rage after an event that we experienced on that grand of a scale. And some use that rage as a platform for radical nationalism and exclusion of others. You and I have a responsibility to stand against that rage and trust, as the children who have grown up reminded us, trust the power and the impact of love. They said in their own testimony that the one thing that has helped them heal was not rage, it's love. Rage has a way of eating at us from the inside out and cause wounds that continue to fester and have any kind of moment as it's bubbling under the surface when those memories are brought out of the closet to escalate to anger and violence. But love has the ability to heal, and love has the ability to help us grow. Some use this event as fuel for religious intolerance or singling out one religion and name all of its followers as evil. You and I have a responsibility at the UUCC to stand against that kind of intolerance. We have to stand against measures to ban people from entering the country based on their religion. We have to stand against anger and violence directed at people based on their religion, their culture, their race, their sexual orientation, their gender. We, more than most, know that religious identity is complex, and that people holding any given religion may vary widely in their politics, their culture, and their moral and ethical formation. Even in this place where we are often described as like-minded people, we are anything but that. Just take a few moments and drop any topic on any subject outside and see what happens and unfolds. We are like-minded, but we also have a variety of understandings and beliefs and meanings and the ways that we interpret our world, and that is a healthy and beautiful thing, that we tolerate that and are blessed by that kind of diversity. We also know that any kind of intolerance often strengthens the fundamentalist and radicalized forms of religions and creates those times of conflict, those times of violence, those times of hate. And I think as we reflect on this anniversary this weekend, we really have to take an honest look and vulnerably reflect on our personal relationship with violence. We have grown to accept acts of violence and mass casualties as a part of everyday life. Maybe to some extent this is true, for you can't ever eliminate terrorism, you can't ever eliminate violence. But we've topped the number of deaths from 9/11 many times over from mass shootings from within our own country. Not to mention at this point, in 2021, where we stand, almost 400 people have died in mass shootings just in this year alone. And that's just the mass shootings that we're describing. If we accounted for the thousands and thousands of gun violence deaths, oftentimes 60 to 70% of them being inflicted by suicide, we have to take an honest look at our relationship with violence. And now we've withdrawn troops from Afghanistan after 20 years of violence and death. And what have we learned? We need to learn a lesson that violence does not accomplish anything other than destruction, and it fertilizes the soil for more violence to grow. You and I must learn on a personal and a national level that we cannot settle our differences with violence. It's the weak and cowardly solution that lacks creativity, wisdom, and goodness. The teaching of Mahatma Gandhi reminded us, as he said, a policy of an eye for an eye for an eye just ends up making everyone blind. And Dr. King said, to defeat the beast, if we become the beast, then bestiality is the only thing that has won. So as we reflect on these events this weekend, I don't have all the answers, but I'm trying to raise the appropriate questions. And the questions are, can we learn lessons from our suffering? Can we let love heal us, even if it's a slow healing and not the quick results that we want? Can we find unity and connection in our diversity? Can we adopt radical nonviolence to achieve our personal and our national goals? It's the only hope we have of making the world a better place.
Our closing music is Healer by Afghan composer Milad Yusufi. This work was commissioned by the Refugee Orchestra Project in 2020. Also a poet and painter, Milad often includes poetry and his own visual art in his piano scores. This is the poem he put in connection to this piece. It's called Nutcracker. Reunion day, honey and water will not taste the same. Living in mansion and streets will feel different. I feel like a nutcracker, well-dressed, moving lips and alert, but frozen, frozen, and frozen. Reunion day, I won't feel a burden. I won't feel like a lost immigrant in the dark forest wandering. I feel like a nutcracker, well-dressed, moving lips and alert, but frozen, frozen, and frozen. I won't feel like a lost child in a big city. I will feel centered. The blood of life will run through my veins. The entire universe will celebrate the reunion moment. I will feel alive again. I will live in peace and rest in peace. I feel like a nutcracker, well-dressed, moving lips and alert, but frozen, frozen, and frozen.
I often say from this pulpit that I believe the UUCC can transform the world, can make the world a better place. It's not just a phrase that I say to fill the air. I truly believe that. And so it is with that hope today that I extinguish our chalice, but ignite our ability to love and transform our world around us.
May the blessings of truth be upon us. May the power of love direct us. And may the peace of this community sustain us till we meet again.
This brings our service to a close. Thank you for joining us, those who are here, but also thanks to those who are watching as we connect this community together. This time, as we bring our service to an end, we invite you to please make your way outside for some social time.